Hey everyone, welcome to CoveredCall ETF Investing. I'm Jordan, and this is your central hub for deep CoveredCall ETF data. And in today's video, which came courtesy of a subscriber and got upvoted a bunch on Blossom, we're going to be looking at funds that pay most of their distribution out in return of capital, but yet seem to garner a positive returns even just on a price performance level. How is that possible? What is return of capital? It's something that's often talked about in the community and often gets misconstrued. So in this video, let's answer that question. Let's do it. Let's go. So today's video, it comes courtesy of a comment that I got from my last video in regards to my 200,000 plus portfolio review video, where I'm basically making almost $2,000 a month in passive income from my 100% CoveredCall ETF portfolio. But a question was asked by Rick Nash. I take it it's not the ex-Columbus Blue Jackets captain from the NHL. Have you worked out how much tax CRA will want? An episode on ETF tax efficiencies would be appreciated. Specifically, ETFs that pay mostly with ROC could be advantageous, assuming the NAV doesn't erode as the revenues are used to retain it. And then we got somewhat of a similar question from Luca here. Hey Jordan, great videos and well done. Thank you. Have you done a video about funds that are tax efficient for non-registered accounts? And I'll probably post somewhere here over the screen. Basically what happened, why I was motivated to make this video and interrupt what I had scheduled out for in place of this video, was the fact that someone had copied this question, put it into Blossom, on one of my videos. It was the portfolio overview video, and it got upvoted about 8 times. And for a channel my size, I don't typically see that, so it was just a green flag for me to maybe actually just make a video on this topic. Now, I do have a playlist of tax-related videos, especially 3 specific ones that I made in April. That was sort of my tax month, where that's all I pretty much talked about were taxes. Basically anything with the Canadian flag is what I made back in April of here in 2024. But in this video, I'll sort of combine, what you see here in the Canadian ETF taxes, return of capital, dividend, adjusted cost base explain, and this one over, what is this? Get out of here. These ads these days, they just pop up every which way. Okay, Canadian tax account strategies for ETFs that pay 0. Okay, so anyway, if you want more in-depth, detailed information on from a tax point of view when it comes to this stuff, I mean, of course, keep in mind, I'm not hired by anyone in this industry. You're basically taking the opinion of a pipe fitter, just so you know. So, but also with that being said, towards the end of the video, I'll also chat about how I got to speak with the CEO of Harvest ETFs at the Vancouver Blossom social event, which was on Thursday, July 18th. Fun, awesome event. It's my second year in a row going to them, and I got a good chunk of time to speak with Michael Kovacs, again, CEO of Harvest. So I'll talk about some of the nuggets that we discussed towards the end of the video. So with that being said, and as always, if you want to really follow my portfolio, every Saturday I also post just these weekly portfolio performance posts. As of last week, that was number 33. Hard to believe, but you can basically see it growing over time, what that looks like week after week. And I would be remiss if I didn't also talk about on July 27th. As a reminder, you can join my Patreon to get the CoveredCall ETF ALLSTAR tracker, which we will be looking at in this video. And I'm doing a Zoom Hangout on July 27th, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you can ask me all your questions. And we already have a bunch of people over there that we're going to be discussing CoveredCall ETFs, strategies, taxes, everything under the sun when it comes to income investing for about an hour and a half. So come on over there if you want to get to know me and the rest of the income investing community, or at least other members of the income investing community. Okay, so with that question that was asked, that I really want to try to simplify this, as I mentioned, and condense it down between those two videos that I talked about. But just for starters, if you've never looked at ETF taxes before, and is more specifically Canadian CoveredCall ETF taxes, you see that each fund here from 2023, this is what each unit paid out. But each unit, its payout is based off of about 6 different factors that make up that total distribution, from return of capital, which is the most tax efficient out there, to eligible dividends and capital gains. These two can be interchangeable. Capital gains, if you're at a higher tax bracket, especially over a 6-figure. If you have a 6-figure salary, capital gains is probably more of your best friend than eligible dividends. If you're at a lower income, especially under 50 grand, I mean, eligible dividends will be your friend, and probably better for you in that regard. And then we have the less tax efficient ones, which is other income, foreign income, usually taxed at your marginal tax rate. But here in the ALLSTAR tracker, which is a spreadsheet I've created, there's different tabs in here for performance data, keeping track of your yields, AUMs, volume, distribution history. But at least in this video, more specifically, looking at tax information. I've also broken this down by percentages. So if you want the total distribution and the number, or at least the dollar amount of what each breakdown is, then you'd come over here to the far right side of the tab. But if you want the percentage breakdown, it's just simply over here. I personally like to just look at the percentage side of things. Now, I've already filtered it by return of capital, which pretty much you can do with any of these tabs. You can filter the info. It keeps it consolidated, tight, and easy to find information. So we can see here, these are the funds that pay out 100% return of capital in 2023. And there's some very popular funds in here, right? You got the USCC, the leverage version, USCL, very big fund, EQCL, CNCL, the Canadian, basically you got the TSX 60 here, you got the S&P 500 right here, you got HTAE, a fund I'm invested in. It's one of my biggest holdings. QQQY, TLF, very, anyway. So popular funds in here. These are not lightweights by any stretch of the imagination, and these ones pay out 100% return on capital, meaning you're not paying tax on any of this stuff. But I know what the question is going to be, Jordan. What's the catch? There's got to be something here that I'm missing. And for sure, there is. Now, when people think about return of capital, they think about it in terms of they are getting their own money back. That is the investment definition of return of capital. But we must also consider, might there be another definition out there? And in my opinion, I think there is, even if it's not communicated well, but there's a tax definition of return of capital. And these two things are not overlap. They are not in the same category. And that is really where we need to think of how we ask about and try to, soak up the information of return of capital. So we know it is the most tax efficient, because if you're getting your own money back, why would you pay tax on it? Okay. There is, again, more stuff behind the scenes, like to go deeper into return of capital, but I would suggest watching those other 2 videos. But in this case, these funds in of themselves, if they pay out 100% return of capital, is their NAV eroding down over time? Well, let's just consider this. Let's consider the investment definition, which states that your principal investment is coming back to you. Then you have the tax definition of return of capital. And basically the tax definition is over here. If I'm going to channel some Obi-Wan Kenobi, it would be like, that's not the definition you're looking for. And it isn't. Return of capital from a tax standpoint is kind of like it gobbles up the investment definition, meaning the tax definition is what we should care about the most. And this definition basically says I can do anything. I can essentially be anything I want from that definition standpoint. And here's what I mean. From a tax definition, return of capital can also mean tax loss harvesting, which is actually a common strategy for tax purposes. Each fund will carry forward losses into the tax year and basically offset, these other categories, and to be a higher share of return of capital. Okay, so I mean, that's how I take it. That it's basically saying, well, if you have enough losses to carry forward and to use it, it basically null and voids all this other stuff. So whatever tax laws, rules are out there, that's how they're allowed to structure it. Now, I will say this, talking with Michael Kovacs, basically that was one of his ways of saying, like, we can engineer it to basically look like this, meaning that return of capital definition is what's really going to show us what definition is at play when it comes to actual performance. So I'll put my face back over there and let's actually look at that. So I've taken a bunch of the funds that you see here that are 100% return of capital. And what do we get here? TLF, LEDs, CNCL, EQCL, QQCC, QQCL. So it's all the bigger popular CoveredCall ETFs out here. And what I see here from 4 different fund managers is I see the tax definition of return of capital at play here. I'm seeing a lot of green and not a whole lot of actual NAV erosion going on here. Right? So we got price performance and then we got total return going on in here. And we got, a little bit of red from CNCL, but I mean, again, that's just looking at the Canadian market, which, I mean, compared to the US over the last little bit here, it just pales in comparison. But this is how you can differentiate, especially using the CoveredCall ETF ALLSTAR tracker, of what definition is really at play here. Is it the tax definition at play of return to capital, or is it the actual investment definition of return to capital, your money coming back to you? Now, of course, there are other aspects to consider with return of capital, and I'm telling you, watch those other tax videos in that playlist. Can't stress that enough to really get a holistic view of exactly what return of capital and the tax implications are all about. But from just an easy to understand point of view, hopefully this did it justice. And I mean, I hope that this also gives you confidence that if you especially want to invest in these things in a non-registered account, which I'm actually going to be doing come next year, well, these are funds that it's not like I would never consider them. I've talked a lot about what my taxable account is going to look like. It's going to be high yielding, and tax efficiencies are the top priorities for that account. But in making this video, I must say that now that I see what funds are available with return of capital, there's a good shot I could probably incorporate more of this into that strategy as well. But again, I want to stick with a higher yield. So either way, that's a year away at least. So more to come on that front. All right. Hopefully you all enjoyed that real stripped down version of really how to think about return of capital, how efficient it can mean. And really, it's 2 different categories is really all I wanted to talk about and show. I didn't really want this to be some big blown up, hard to follow video regarding tax. If you want something more in depth, check out those 2 videos that I suggested on that tax playlist. It's very, to me, I like to use analogies, and I'm also a movie buff as well. It's like The Thing, right? If you've seen The Thing, there's The Thing, and then The Thing prequel, I think in 2011, where, right, in the Arctic, this alien parasite comes, and if you get it into your bloodstream, it just assimilates your body. So it's like, you look like you talk like you, but you're an alien. But in this case, the tax version assimilating the tax definition, assimilating the investment definition, in this case, is a good thing for us and not an alien by any means. But anyways, I digress. Let's talk about three big takeaways I took away from a conversation I had with the CEO of Harvest Portfolios at the Blossom Social event. Now, just to touch on that lightly, second year in a row going to the Blossom Social event. Very cool, especially now that I'm starting to get to know, got people like Brandon Beavis a little bit more, Mark Beavis, Max, the CEO of Blossom, and getting to speak with other YouTubers in that space. I mean, I approached one guy and I said, "You look so familiar. I don't know from where. I definitely don't watch your videos, but it's just somewhere I know you." And he's like, "My name's Zach Hartley. I have a channel of 70,000 people." I was like, that is so cool. And just to hear the exchange of what we've been learning on YouTube and just what it looks like to be a content creator was really cool to chat with him about. And yeah, really awesome guy. Really got the sense that, genuinely, of course, cares about the information he puts out. And he subscribed to my channel right away, subscribed to my Blossom feed right away, and he's like, "Wow, let's do a one-on-one one day." I was like, "Cool, yeah, let's do it." But I would say the highlight of the night was being able to talk with Michael Kovacs, the CEO of Harvest ETF. So here are the three nuggets that I'll impart to you all that were really interesting. So the very first one, and these questions came at, there were so many other questions I had for him, but I would say these were sort of the three big takeaways that I felt were the most important. So number one was it actually had to do with return of capital, and this is something that I see every so often, and I think there is confusion around this, and that is that your brokerage will adjust your book value of your CoveredCall ETF downward when return of capital is paid out. And I've been saying in my tax videos that's not the case. Your principal does not change. It doesn't. What changes is your ACB, your adjusted cost base, which is, again, that is tax language. It has nothing to do with your actual investment itself. So once again, two category errors when it comes to understanding return of capital, just in a slightly different context. So I asked Michael, does your principal go downward? He said, nope, does not. So I'm excited to hear this, and I immediately say, only ACB, right? He says, yeah, that's exactly right. So good to hear that, because I don't want to be putting out information that, especially information like that can influence tax strategies in a negative way. Again, I'm not a tax professional, but I do enjoy talking about this stuff. Just as a reminder, guys, I'm a pipe fitter. Pipe fitters aren't supposed to know this stuff, but I think in general, you don't think of pipe fitters knowing this kind of stuff, or construction workers knowing this stuff. But here we are. I just enjoy talking about it. So that was nugget number one. Nugget number two was we were talking about how do you decide when to raise the distributions? What is the strategy behind that? And what he told me is actually pretty simple enough, but I just didn't think of it in this terms. And what he was saying was how, they really want to be sure that they can maintain the same distribution, and that's why funds like HDIF haven't, this is the first time it's seeing a distribution increase in 2 years, 3. Yeah, probably 2 years since that fund's been around, or 3 years. Getting all mixed up. At least 3 years. But he was saying how, as the value of these funds are rising, to maintain the same distribution, we're writing as a proportion less of a percentage on the portfolio, less and less and less. And he didn't tell me which fund it was, but he did say it's like one of our funds we're now just writing 21% covered calls on the portfolio just to maintain the same distribution. So at that with that gap from 21% with their 33% max of what they'll write on a portfolio, there's a big gap there, so they can write some more calls, generate some more income on each of those on those funds. And he was just also saying, it was just important that whatever we write, if the market ever drops by 30%, we can absorb the shock. And he feels like he was even saying 50% we can absorb the shock. Like we should be like, we'll be in business, we'll be able to maintain fund distributions. So I mean, I'd still I believe him that a significant drop and 50%, dang, well, hey, if you can maintain that, then great, because I own HDIF and I own HTAE, two harvest products that I really like. And the third nugget that we discussed was again, more kind of return of capital based. It had to do with some of the higher yields we see in Canada, and he was just saying how he wouldn't give me a ticker name. Smart businessman, right? Wouldn't give me a ticker name, but gave me some breadcrumbs to, close enough to figure it out. He was saying how there are other fund managers out there that write fairly significant coverage on the Canadian bank industry, and he was just saying, he's like, we've done the calculations, like there's no way you can do that without encroaching on the NAV or grinding the NAV down. Now I thought that was interesting because I am considering a fund like bank, which I believe has the highest Canadian bank yield out there. Now it does have leverage, so we also got to consider that as well. That's kind of it does boost the yield, but it's not right. You can't put leverage in the same category as a covered call premium, but it does add to performance. It does add to the yield. So yeah, leverage is a component there. So I thought that was interesting to hear that from him. So it just means, I probably do want to take a closer look at those, at funds like bank and BKCL and those much more higher yielding covered call ETFs, bank covered call ETFs, and especially ones that, as he was saying, like been raising their distributions over and over and over. Like, how sustainable can that really be? And I would say, after my conversation with him, I didn't take anything away from that I actually do, I have no reason to think that, he's trying to, well, just come to my product because by de facto it's the best. No, I got the impression that, the guy knows what he's talking about. Quite clearly, the dude knows what he's talking about. And what it's going to make me do is investigate that a little bit further and maybe get a video on that of what funds in Canada do I feel like are really being encroached upon, because as you saw from this video, there are funds out there that do just fine. They are coming at it from the tax definition point of view, which is much better for performance, but it's the investment definition which is more of a concern, of course. So hopefully you all enjoyed this video, and hey, keep asking questions down in the comments. You never know when I'll make a video on it, especially in a case like this. So hit all the buttons to like and subscribe to Variety, and I'll see you all in the next video.